Hey, what's up everyone? Ryan here, and it is time for episode 1 of my ultimate beginner's guide in PGA Tour 2K25. So, when I started to record my ultimate beginner's guide, I had it planned to all be in one video. Well, the problem was it turned into about a 2.5 hour video. So what I did was I created them into 4 separate videos to start out. So in today's video, you're going to see a full breakdown of the MyPlayer progression system and stats and archetypes to focus on first. So this video includes these different elements: the best starting archetype and stats and the reason why, choosing the right ball flight swing bias, how to manage, create, and switch between multiple MyPlayers, attribute and skill progression overview, and best early game attributes to focus on. And that also includes the max number of attribute points you could get and the max number of skill points you can get. You will see a full skills and shot type overview, including the ones that I recommend you to focus on early in game. And also, you're going to see a very important Clubhouse Pass skills discussion as well. And then last but certainly not least, I'm going to go over the different gameplay difficulty settings to help you find the right settings for you, and also talk about the quest system. And that will be all that's in this episode. So I have timestamps for you all in the video description. Feel free to jump around wherever you want to. In the next episode, episode 2, you will see a deep dive and beginner's guide into the golf club progression system, the golf club fittings, the golf ball fittings, and golf bag customization. Now, episode 3 is a very important one. That includes the Evo swing tips, shot shaping, draw, fade, loft, deloft, and attack angle. And that's episode 3. And then episode 4 of this series is my putting tutorial. So my goal is when I post this episode, shortly after that, post the other 3 episodes. So that way you all can tune into the full playlist linked in the video description to my full ultimate beginner's guide in PGA Tour 2K25. Now there's other episodes I will be recording over this next month or so and beyond, and stay tuned for plenty more gameplay videos, a full career mode series, and so much more here for PGA Tour 2K25 and plenty of other sports games. And if you all get some enjoyment and find this helpful, be sure to drop a like before you go. It really helps. Subscribe for more, and I really loved the way these first 4 episodes turned out, and I hope you all learn a lot in these next 4 videos. Okay, so after you load into the game for the first time, you're going to go through the tutorial with John McCarthy at the driving range, but then after that, it's going to take you to create your MyPlayer. And if you've already created your MyPlayer, don't worry, you can create up to 10 MyPlayers, and they all have their own unique career mode save, which is awesome. So, you create your appearance, you go to your first decision here, choosing your primary archetype. There are 5 primary archetypes to choose from, and it's your starting archetype that dictates your player's starting attributes. It's important to point out that your archetype cannot be freely changed like you could do it in 2K23. So when you choose an archetype for that MyPlayer, it is locked in. Now don't worry, if you create a MyPlayer you don't like the build, you can just delete that player when you manage your MyPlayers in the main menu and then just create another one. So yes, the archetype is locked in. You can no longer freely change between them. So there are 5 different ones. Greenskeeper is the putting archetype. Powerhouse is the distance archetype, for especially distance off the tee. Technician is my favorite, and in my opinion, the best starting archetype, because this is the archetype that has the most swing forgiveness. Next up, Sculptor. This is for those who like to shot shape a lot, so draw and fade. And it has a very high correction stat, which is very important. And then Magician is high recovery, which helps you get out of the rough and sand and different lies. But the best one, in my opinion, is Technician. And this is because the starting attributes for swing path, contact, and correction are very high, and it is very great for leveling up quicker and playing better and having more forgiveness in the early game. Now, that's a couple reasons why it's the best in my opinion. The other reason is if you get one technician to level 85, you unlock the pick shot. A pick shot is a shot from the bunker that is extremely powerful in this game. you're going to want to unlock the pick shot as soon as you can. And the beautiful part about it, once you unlock the pick shot with your first MyPlayer, getting the Technician to level 85, that opens up the pick shot for all your other MyPlayers of a different archetype. So each archetype, once you get each archetype to 85, you're going to unlock a specific skill, and that skill then becomes available to your other archetypes. So Technician is the one I would go after first because this pick shot is fantastic. It basically allows you to hit a shot from the bunker that will stop. So you can generate a lot of spin on it, and it is a very useful shot. Trust me, go after that shot first. Now, I told you that's the best starting archetype because for swing difficulty, it is the best for early game. But then the question comes up, well, Ryan, what in the world is swing path, contact, and correction? So if you're looking at the controller here on the webcam, as you can see, I have my right thumb on the analog stick, and I'm talking about swing stick right now. So when you pull back for the backswing, that analog stick final position, when you transition from backswing to downswing, is swing path. So it's the swing plane at the beginning for the backswing. Contact is your swing plane at the end point, analog stick fully forward for the downswing when the club contacts the ball. In this game, those two primary components are what's going to lead to the shot pulling and hooking, or pushing and slicing. It is the swing path that dictates the pull and push. It's the contact that dictates the draw or fade or hook and slice, depending on how far you're off that center point. So that is swing path and contact for swing stick. Now, if you're playing 3-click, the first button press after you set your distance control is swing path, the bottom part of the 3-click meter. Now, as it moves around to the top, that top button press to set your contact. That's contact. Okay, so I know you're all probably wondering, well, what does a high swing path, high contact stat even do? And I'll get into the other parts of the golf swing and all of the other attributes and talk about them all later in today's video. But on screen, you can see a level 1 player right above me on the left. So that's a level 1 contact swing path zones. And then on the right, you can see 99 overall Tiger Woods of the same shot type. You can see the contact and forgiveness zones. And what you're going to notice, that forgiveness area is so much bigger for 99 overall Tiger Woods because he has a high swing path and a high contact. So no matter the stat, when you increase those stats, it's going to increase those forgiveness zones on the shot feedback so that when you miss outside that sweet spot center area, the shot's going to be more forgiving, and it also makes it really hard to miss outside of that gray region. And when you miss outside of that gray region, it's going to lead to a mega hook or a mega slice, depending on where you miss. So that is the importance of having a high contact and high swing path, because it increases the forgiveness of both the hook and slice for contact and the push and pull forgiveness for swing path, increasing on the shot feedback how wide those zones are, which makes it easier for you to hit a better golf shot. So the other stat I want to talk about is correction. So you can see Technician has a correction of 67. So what correction does in this game is it makes the diagonal swing plane that you have to hit when you're on pro difficulty or above, it makes that diagonal swing more vertical. So keep in mind, that's only a setting in the game if you're playing on pro difficulty and above. If you're playing below pro difficulty, correction is not really a very important stat because you're just going to be swinging straight up and straight down every time. Now, in PGA 2K25, every single MyPlayer has a ball flight swing bias. It's either going to be a draw or a fade. And if it's a draw, you got to swing diagonally down to the left, up and to the right for a right-handed golfer. If it's a fade, diagonally down and to the right and up and to the left. By default, with every swing, every MyPlayer on pro difficulty and above, you will be swinging diagonally. And I do want to point that out. Now, we chose our starting archetype, Technician. Trust me, level up a Technician first to unlock that pick shot, then use that pick shot in other of the archetypes. Start leveling up every archetype because you're going to want to get every single archetype, every single MyPlayer, 5 MyPlayers to at least 85 overall. So that way you unlock every single archetype skill for every one of your MyPlayers and future MyPlayers. So you chose your archetype. Now you move on to choose your player's swing bias. Now, no matter if you have the swing bias turned on, the diagonal swing turned on, whatever you want to call it, each player you create will either hit a draw by default or a fade by default. They will not hit a straight shot by default. So you get to choose this, and you can freely change this. When you go into the MyPlayer menu to edit your MyPlayer, you can edit your information and change this ball flight swing bias. And I highly recommend that if you're going to play online ranked, the online ranked default difficulty is pro difficulty and above, which means you will have that diagonal swing plane. What I recommend, play around on draw bias. Get a feel for it. Try it with left stick swing, try it with right stick swing, and then after that, switch to fade. Try it with left stick for 9 holes, try it with right stick for 9 holes. See which one feels the most comfortable for you. Now, the reason I tell you all to try both of them out and try left stick and right stick is because I've always been a left stick swinger for every single golf game ever. But in PGA 2K25, I've found that I am a right stick swinger and a fade preference. So I didn't learn that at first. If you watch my career mode series on the channel, you know I thought I was a draw preference. Well, I discovered that if I angle the controller and use the right stick, I can hit the fade pretty well. I took a lot of practice and a lot of work, but mess around with both ball flights, especially if you're going to be playing online ranked, and find that swing for you. And once you find it, stick with it. Now, keep in mind, you're going to have to hit draws sometimes. Anyways, depending on the shot, you're going to have to hit fades. So you're going to have to learn both if you're playing on pro or above. Okay, so before we get into the attributes to focus on early, I want to show you all how you can manage your MyPlayer and create new MyPlayers and change your active MyPlayer that you're using. So when you're in the main menu, if you hit Y on the Xbox controller or triangle on PlayStation, it's going to open the Manage MyPlayer menu. So it is in this menu that you can set a different active MyPlayer. So I have 9 MyPlayers created right now. So say I wanted to use Jerry here. I could click on Jerry, and then I could set Jerry as my active MyPlayer. I could reset Jerry's career or reset any of my MyPlayers' careers. And I also could delete that MyPlayer to create another one of a different archetype. So you can create up to 10 MyPlayers. So I have 9 here so that I can show you all. If you hit this plus button, I could create my 10th and final one. And if I don't like one, I could just delete them. And one awesome thing about this game is Technician, like I talked about earlier, I said to make sure you level it to level 85, right? So really, you want to level it to level 90 because you unlock what's called Rebirth. So Rebirth will allow you to get a pool of attribute points for any other MyPlayer starting out. So that means when you create another MyPlayer, you're going to have a pool of attribute points to use for free without spending any VC to level up that player more early to give that archetype a head start. Okay, so now you know how to manage MyPlayers, change your active MyPlayers, create new ones, and delete them. Now, let's get into attributes and skill progression. The skill system and attribute system from 2K23 has been completely revamped. It works way differently now, and I'm going to break it all down for you right now. So when you're in the main menu, you hit the MyPlayer menu. This is where you can improve your players' attributes and spec into new skills, and also you can change your appearance and info. Very important if you want to switch around the swing bias. You can set different outfits and also customize your golf bag. More about the golf bags later on in this video, but for now, let's dive into the new MyPlayer progression system. Okay, so let's talk about starting attributes here and what to focus on early. So now, when you create your MyPlayer, you're going to have access to, as you can see at the bottom right, 51 available attribute points. But here's the thing, you can't immediately apply those attribute points. So you have to spend VC to apply each of them. So when you spend VC, it's going to cost you 125 VC each time you level up one skill. Now, that price does not change the higher overall you get. And what's important to point out, every attribute is connected to the attribute next to it. So when you increase power, you negatively impact the max potential attribute for contact. So for example, by default, technicians can get 99 contact, but at the expense of only being able to get 43 power. Now you can still increase the other stat with club fittings. I will get into club fittings later. So this is not the only attribute boost that you can get. Now I will say they are locked to 99. So if you have contact 99 and you put a contact club fitting on the club, it does not make it higher than 99. 99 is the max, and 99 is the max overall for your MyPlayer. Once you fully level up your MyPlayer, you will have access to 150 attribute points. And when you fully level up your character, you will have access to 500 skills. We'll get to the skills a little bit later. Now, another thing you see at the bottom left of the screen here is owned AP. So owned attribute points. It's like, what in the world is that? So I mentioned Rebirth earlier. When you get a MyPlayer to level 90, you're going to unlock Rebirth. That gives you a pool of owned AP to use to level up your other MyPlayers that you don't have to spend VC to apply. And don't worry, say you don't like the way you spent your points. You can respec at any time. It costs 500 VC to do it. You can also respec all your skills at one time. It costs 500 VC to do that. So, as I said, every skill is connected. Powers is connected to contact. Swing path connected with correction. Shaping connected with recovery. Rhythm connected with transition. Putt weight with putt contact. Putt rhythm with putt path. It's easy to see because when you increase one, it decreases the opposite side max potential. You can see it show up in red on the opposite side. So that means you will not be able to get 99 in every attribute. Every attribute skill you spend will come at a cost to another attribute next to it. So when you increase power, when you increase contact, you also decrease the max potential of power. So let's talk about what to focus on early on though. In my opinion, the two hardest parts of the new swing are contact and swing path. The other parts of the swing, transition, getting the perfect power of the shot, and rhythm are a lot more forgiving and less punishing than hitting contact or swing path. Now with that being said, transition, setting the intended power on the shot, we'll get more into these stats here in a little bit. Transition is important and it is very punishing, but not to the extent that contact and swing path are. So early on, I would spec into contact as soon as you can early game. So when you play through courses, every single round, every single 18 holes you play, you'll get 126 VC. That will allow you to spend one available attribute point. With each round, you always get 126 for 18 holes of golf. So focus on contact first. I would say swing path second and correction third. Those are the first primary stats I would spend about 5 skill points in each. Now, also pay attention to what you're struggling with the swing. If you don't struggle with the swing path, the first part of the analog stick movement, then you may not have to worry about swing path. You're just going to focus on maybe the downswing swing plane, which is contact. So it will all depend on what you're struggling with early game, how you spin these. This is what I would recommend, but everybody's going to have their own. Now, I do want to say, every time you spec into power, you will decrease the max potential for contact. And as a technician, you're going to want to have as high a contact as you can. But as you can see at the bottom right, when we increase power, we're going to increase the carry distance of all of our clubs. And that's not all power does. So I do recommend you put some in power as well. That is not for the carry distance for me as much as the spin. So if you look underneath Ryan Gamer's name there, power determines the maximum carry distance, trajectory height, and spin of a shot. So yes, power actually dictates the direct spin that the player is able to generate. Higher power, more spin. You combine that with the next important stat for me, which is shaping. Shaping will allow you to add more draw and fade when you're shot shaping the shot, and also be able to loft the ball more, which will indirectly add more spin to the shot. So that means that when you improve power and shaping together, you're going to really impact the amount of spin you can put on the shot, especially if you're shot shaping. That is what I would do early game right there, right off the bat. That's about what I would focus on to generate a little bit more spin as a technician, get a little more shot shaping ability. Those are the 5 stats I would start with. Now it brings up to the next stat that is important. That is recovery. recovery determines the ability to hit out of a poor lie. So that means the forgiveness zones for contact, swing path, rhythm, and transition when you're in the rough or sand will be bigger than if you had a lower recovery stat. The lower your recovery stat is when you get in the rough, those regions, the contact, swing path, are going to be very narrow. So there's no margin for error. But when recovery is higher, those zones are going to be bigger when you're in the rough. Now, it also determines the scale of the lie range. So that means when you're in the rough in this game or in the sand, you're going to have a lie percent at the bottom right of the screen. It's going to say something like 72 to 90 potentially, or any range. That means that shot, when hit fully out of that lie, is going to travel anywhere from 72 of that club's max carry distance or 90. And you're guessing. A higher recovery stat makes that lie more narrow. Now here's the thing. I recommend you test this out. Go into Quick Play. Go to Oakmont or Royal Portrush. Hit the ball into the rough playing as Tiger Woods. 99 overall. Look at the forgiveness zones at the right of the screen when you're hitting your shot. Look at the lie range. You're going to have a very narrow lie range. Exit out. Choose your low-level MyPlayer. I recommend like a level 65 MyPlayer technician. Low recovery. If you have a magician, you're going to have a higher recovery. You're not going to see as big of a difference. But load up your MyPlayer, try to hit it in the same spot and see the difference. It is insane. So yes, you're going to want to focus on recovery as well, especially if you're like me and you spend a lot of time in the rough. Now, I wouldn't spend a lot on this early game. Like late game, I'm going to create a whole nother build video and different build guides on my favorite skills and favorite final build attributes. This is just early game stuff to focus on. If you don't miss the fairway and don't hit it into the rough, why focus on recovery, right? So it's all going to be tailored to your experience as well. Rhythm determines the timing forgiveness from transition to contact that modifies swing power percent. Tempo has been completely reworked. It no longer determines a hook and slice on the shot. It only affects distance. It does not move the ball left and right. So it's very different from 2K23, and I will say it's very forgiving. So what rhythm means, if you're playing analog stick, when you're swinging back and down, it's that down movement from backswing to downswing, the speed of the movement, that's either going to add power to the shot if it's fast, or decrease power to the shot if it's slow. But I will say, it's just a smooth swing in this game. You do not have to flick the stick forward anymore. You can, but you're going to crush it. So this game creates the tempo based on your analog stick backswing movement. So when you pull back, you want to go forward about 3 times that backswing movement, and the game will automatically adjust to your speed as the player. So you'll have your own tempo on every single shot in the game. So when you pull back, you want to go about 3 times faster. Now, what does that mean? Well, for me, it's just a nice and easy, smooth swing. That is what tempo does in this game. It's very forgiving, and I will say it's very consistent on the Xbox Series X controller, which was not the case in PGA 2K23. Now, I wouldn't focus on rhythm early because I don't find it a big problem in my game. Now, next up is transition. Transition determines the backswing to downswing forgiveness at the intended power percent. So hitting the perfect power on the shot. So that is setting your distance, and it can be very punishing in this game, but honestly, Technician starts at 64, which is a good starting point. So I would not focus on this early game either unless you're struggling with transition. Now moving on to the last 4 stats, you have 4 different putting stats that are only important for putting, of course. Putt weight is the same as transition, but for putting only, setting the perfect power on the shot. Putt contact is the same as contact. It's that analog stick position when the club contacts the ball, or 3-click, it's going to be that final button press at the top. Putt rhythm. So it matters now. So rhythm matters on putting, and to help you with this, you just want to do a nice and easy swing on putting. If you start to flick it forward fast, you're going to crush it on putting. Just nice and easy back, nice and easy forward. You're going to be in good shape on your rhythm for putting. Now, it is important though, because if you're just a little bit fast on putting, you're affecting the ball by 1 to 2 percentage points. That is a big impact on the greens in 2K25. That small percentage change can lead to misreading a putt. Okay, so that's putt rhythm. Putt path is the same as swing path, but for putting. So that backswing analog position when you transition forward to set your power. Now, You notice that I haven't said to spin points in any of the putting stats. That is because my putting stroke is not my problem. If you struggle with putting, I do recommend you actually improving the putting stats. I wouldn't focus on it early unless you're really struggling with it. Now, I will say as a technician, your biggest weakness is going to be the putter and hitting from the rough or different lies, right? But if you're good at putting, you may not have to focus on these. But find the one that you're struggling with on any of these stats. You're struggling with putt weight, setting the power on the shot. Do you keep overpowering or underswinging? Focus on putt weight. Are you struggling with the downswing speed? Does it keep saying plus 5 seconds fast? 5 seconds is extreme, but 0.05 seconds fast, 5% overswing. If that's the case, you'll want to improve those stats to increase the forgiveness and make it easier to hit those. If you're like me, it's going to be putt contact and putt path that are going to be more important, because as a technician, you notice that they're not very good. So if I was going to focus in them, I would focus on putt contact and putt path. Those are the two hardest parts of the swing for me. Mostly putt contact. I feel like I had putt path down pretty good. Okay, so there you have it. That's the stats I would focus on early game. Keep in mind, it's going to be specific from person to person. What are you struggling with? Now you know what the stats do. And now you can use this information to be like, okay, I need to focus on this early game. When you get to in game, you could just respec this from 500 VC and then just reapply and create the build you want and keep trying different builds, right? Now, it will take about 3 to 5 rounds to be able to get 500 VC to actually be able to respec your character. Now, that's really not too much. And if you're completing quests along the way, you're going to get even more VC, so you could do that even faster. But it's 126 per 18-hole round that you play that will allow you to get enough to improve one available action point. So that is the attributes overview here. Let's move in to the skills. So skills have been completely changed in PGA Tour 2K25. You have 5 primary skills: tee, approach, recovery, bunker, and green. Now I'm going to show you what I would focus on early and then what I would not focus on. So do you see the hexagons here? You have the big hexagons and the small nodes adjacent to those. The big hexagons are always shot types. So you can spend skill points to unlock different shot types. For tee skills, choke tee shot, stinger, and then if you have a powerhouse MyPlayer, you can then unlock the power drive at level 85 and then also unlock it for your other archetypes. Now keep in mind, it costs 24. Like, you unlock it, you still got to spend those 24 skill points, right? It's just, you got to unlock it to get to 85. That doesn't mean you automatically have it. You still have to spend the skill points to have the power drive. Same thing when you get it to 85 and unlock it for your other MyPlayers. With those MyPlayers, you still have to spend 24 skill points to get it. You will get a total of 500 skill points once you fully level up your character, as I already mentioned. So what you want to start out on is right here. All the nodes adjacent to tee shot. These 3 up here and this one down here. You want to make sure you get them. What these do, they increase the sweet spot when you're trying to hit the transition, the swing path, the contact, and rhythm. So what that does, see on the screen there, that white region in the center, you have the gray region, which is that forgiveness zone. When you're in the gray region, it's gonna go either to the left or to the right. Like, the gray region is still pretty punishing. But when you're in that white region, that's the perfect zone. Your shot's gonna go exactly where you want it. When you get these skills, that region is going to get a lot bigger. And I'd say a lot bigger because it is a big impact compared to how it starts. And then the higher your stats are and the attributes for each of these categories, the better it's going to be. So what I would focus on straight off the bat: tee shot, improvement of transition, contact, swing path, and rhythm. Those are the only drive shots I would get. I've went through and played with every shot type in the game with the playable pros. I don't think I'm ever going to use the stinger. I don't think I'm ever going to hit a choke tee shot because I would just hit just a regular tee shot and have the same effect, hit a partial shot. Now, power drive, I'm never going to hit it because it's extremely difficult to hit. Now, the best players in the game with the new Evo swing will dominate with the power drive because they're going to be automatic with that swing, and they do get a big advantage if you're good at it. It takes a lot of skill, and you're going to want to spend 8 points in 8, 16, 16, and 8 to increase the sweet spot. So you're going to be spending a lot of skill points here if you want to master the power drive. I would not recommend it. I would just get 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving on to what I would say is the most important thing to do early. You want to make sure all the nodes adjacent to this approach shot on the top left, you want to get every single one. This increases that sweet spot by more than you would expect. It is vital to get these. You want transition, cost 2, contact, cost 4, swing path, cost 4, and then rhythm, cost 2. So those are what I would do first. And then next up, for the pitch shot, I would actually go ahead and improve my transition to set that perfect power on a pitch shot. Now, this is not to actually help my pitching, because what you're going to find is you want to try to get to this node right here as fast as you can, and that is the spinner shot. My favorite shot in the game, other than the pick shot that I talked about earlier for technician. Now, that's in the bunker skills. You want to unlock the spinner shot as soon as you can. I would still focus on approach first. And then what I would do is do pitch transition. I would not do the other 2 nodes. I would then go to rhythm. I would unlock the runner when I can. The only reason, not because I like the shot, I do not like it. Now, what you have to be 75 overall, as you can see. So some of these nodes can only be unlocked by unlocking an adjacent node and then also being a certain overall. So you have to be 75 overall for a runner and then an 80 overall for a spinner. But honestly, you're going to be at that overall anyways if you level up enough to have that many skill points, right? So I would go here, rhythm, unlock the runner shot, not because I'm going to use it, just to get to the spinner. And then I'm going to do runner transition proficiency, rhythm proficiency boost, and then spinner. So that is the route that I take early game. If you watch my career mode series, I accidentally go the other way. And the other way is really not too great because a choked approach shot, I've used it barely any. I barely used this shot. I should never have spent the points on it, but I'm not going to spend 500 VC to respec it. And you can get the driver off the deck here, but you could just put power fittings on your 3-wood and still have a 3-wood that carries a lot. I don't think the driver off the deck shot is really that useful. I didn't hit a driver off the deck very much in 2K23. I don't think you should go down this left route early game. I think you should go this route to unlock the spinner. Once you unlock the spinner, you're going to want to get every adjacent node for it to increase the spinner proficiency of the 4 different parts of the swing. Now, you can also see if you are a sculptor archetype, you unlock the knockdown shot. And I need to spend more time using this shot. Of what I've used of it, it's actually really good, especially in the wind. And I can see myself using this a lot. Honestly, I think Sculptor is going to be the second archetype I fully level up. So that'll be what I go after later. So now on to recovery. So here's the thing. I never hit a punch shot unless I need to. I would not spend any on these early game and maybe even late game. And also, the flop shot is almost impossible, and I've never hit a good flop. Even playing with 99 Tiger Woods and any of the other playable pros, I've never hit a good flop shot. So even having those skills, I do not recommend spending any on these early games. Same thing for the super flop. A choked punch, I never have found use for. The only useful shot here is when you get to recovery, but that's only if you're the magician archetype. This recovery shot is actually really good. So I've used this with a couple playable pros. It is a very forgiving shot when you're in the rough, and it actually generates a pretty good amount of spin, especially if you use shot shaping. So I do think leveling up a magician to 85 is definitely going to be important later on. It'll be a lot easier with rebirth once you get a player to level 90. But yeah, that's really the only useful skill here. I wouldn't get any of these other shots, honestly, early game. So now into bunker. You're going to want to make sure you improve all the nodes adjacent to the splash shot. Trust me, the splash shot is extremely, extremely challenging. So you're going to increase contact, sweet spot, transition, swing path, and rhythm as you're leveling up your characters. So this is early game, of course, as well. As you're leveling up your character, I'm just giving you routes and what to focus on. You need help with the splash shot early on. You're going to be using it a lot, and you're going to try to be working your way to the best shot in the game, in my opinion. It's not even close, in my opinion, the pick shot. You only get this with the Technician. And once you get a Technician to 85, you unlock it for your other archetypes, or unlock the potential to spend skill points to unlock it, if that makes sense. So yes, this is so important. You want to get to this fast. Now, what route do you take, you're wondering? Well, the blast shot, I've never seen a use for it yet, unless you're hitting it to a significant uphill. I would not get the blast shot. I would unlock the power pick shot first. This shot is really good. It is extremely good. You're hitting irons from a fairway bunker. This shot can generate a lot of spin, very controlled rollouts. This power pick shot is very useful. Now, then you're probably going to end up unlocking all the proficiencies for the power pick. I would not yet, in my personal opinion. I would just unlock transition and then rhythm, and then unlock this pick shot, save up points to unlock this as soon as you can. Now, that all depends on if you're 85 or not. This shot you want, trust me. So last but not least, you have green skills. So one thing I will say, for putting, if you're a Technician, you're gonna want to focus on all the adjacent nodes for putting, because you have a low putting sweet spot for every single stat. You're gonna want to increase the base putter on the top right there. So all the adjacent nodes to putter. Now, the lag putt is something that I don't find very useful. It's a very forgiving way to hit a long putt. It is very forgiving, but honestly, I'm pretty good at the putting. So this is if you struggle with getting long putts short. It's just a much forgiving swing on long distance putts. Now, the Texas wedge is something that you can unlock later. Now, I would wait on all of these, right? It's important to point that out. I would wait on all of these, but I just want to show you that if you want to have a more powerful putting stroke from off the green, the Texas wedge is the way to go. You all know I love the Texas wedge if you know my content on the channel for EA PGA Tour, so I will be using the shot quite a bit, but honestly, I'm not going to spend skill points on it for a long time, and it might not be included in my loadout at the end. Now, bump and run on the left is actually a shot that I think is really fun. Is it very useful? Well, not very useful for the most part, but it's just so fun to hit, to be honest. So if I was going to go out down this route, I would get all the chipping, every chipping proficiency, especially transition. Transition is very sensitive on chip shots. I'd get all the putting, and then you got to make your decision. Do you want to lag putt or bump and run? And then make your way to the Texas wedge, and then down here to the archetype skill for the greenskeeper, the putting archetype, which is green reader. So this actually improves the green grid detail by reducing the scale of each grid scale. So if you play the game as Colin Morikawa, you want to see how the grid lines look different. It basically makes each square smaller, so you get more detail on the break. Now, I am so used to the default grid lines, to be honest. I don't see myself using Greenskeeper too often, but many players will probably find benefit out of this. I'm just so used to the way the grids move by default, and whenever I move them and play as Colin Morikawa, I struggle quite a bit. So yeah, it just throws me off having more information. I don't know why. You'd think it'd make me better, but yeah, I think this is going to be a skill that helps out a lot of players that want more detail on the green, but you got to get a greenskeeper to 85. Now, I can't leave this skills page without mentioning what CHP is. Now, in my career mode series on the channel, you'll notice I don't discover this. There's one career mode episode I go through and I look at like the first 25 tiers of the Clubhouse Pass. I'm like, okay, on the free tier, you can unlock the tie spinner. So the tie spinner shot you get at Clubhouse Pass level 20 on the free tier. But I hope this changes before launch, and I hope they backtrack on this next part. I have to point out that this new Clubhouse Pass in 2K25 has my least favorite Battle Pass or Season Pass mechanic that I've ever experienced in any video game ever, especially in a sports game. If you pay $9.99 to unlock the premium tier, only then can you have access to increasing the sweet spot for the tie spinner, and that is the only way. Now, I really hope they change this, because this is the most pay to win you could ever get. It is. There's no denying that this is more pay to win than VC, because this is a specific skill that you cannot earn or unlock by playing the game unless you spend a $9.99 on top of a $69.99 game in order to unlock it. This is one of those things that I have to mention here, because I hope this is changed by the time you're watching this video. I truly hope so, because as you can see, throughout the first 5 seasons, first 6 seasons, you're going to unlock 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shot types. And that means there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 proficiencies. Skills that players who don't buy the premium pass will not be able to experience. You talk about a massive pay to win advantage here. This is the most pay to win system I've ever seen in a battle pass, enough that I have to point it out for you in an ultimate beginner's guide. This is a deal breaker for many people. I know that. You all, if you watch my content on the channel, you know how I feel about Clubhouse passes, battle passes in an already premium priced game. I'm not a fan at all. I think it should always be free when you spend $69.99 on the base game. But if you're gonna have it, then only have cosmetics and VC and golf balls. Do not have skill types locked behind a paywall. I hope this is changed when you all are watching this. And I have to put it in this video because I did not discover this until very recently. And my jaw dropped when I saw this. My jaw dropped. This is a really, really bad system. Let's just say it like it is. This should never be, no video game should ever adopt this system, even if it's free to play. No game should ever do it. And to be honest, I've never seen any type of game do something like this. That's why I think they're going to backtrack this. The easy solution, you make them all free, and hopefully by the time you're watching this part doesn't matter on this video because they've all been made free on the Clubhouse Pass just by leveling up. Okay, so now let's dive into the quest and difficulty settings to tailor the game difficulty to the way you like it. Now, when you hit the start button or menu button, it's going to pull up the quest. Now, in this, you can claim rewards. In the quest section, you can look at different quests. There's tons of different quests, and as you play the game, it's going to then pop up in-game when you actually complete those quests. The quest system is really cool. You're going to unlock Evo tools, VC, you're going to unlock level up tokens, you're going to unlock club level up stuff as well, instant club levels up, and the cool thing is, each MyPlayer has a separate career save and a separate quest log for the career. So you still get to do those quests for the new MyPlayer for career mode, which is really cool the way they did that. Now, that's the quest menu, just showing how you go in to claim rewards, and then also some of the quests that you have. You're going to have daily, weekly quests, but let's talk about difficulty. Now you know attributes, skills, all that. But what difficulty do you want to play the game on? Well, if you want to play online ranked, I recommend you start right on Pro. The harder difficulty you play on, you're going to get more experience after each round. So if you want to level up the fastest and you're good at the game, just put it on Legend and you're going to get a big boost. I don't recommend that whatsoever. I recommend playing at Pro, especially if you want to play online. Now, if you hate the diagonal swing plane, if you hate it, if you don't like it whatsoever, play on Pro Elm or below. If you play on the easiest difficulty, perfect swing, it's always going to be a perfect shot every time. You just do the normal shot setup and then hit the ball. Now, start to get on Pro, you have that diagonal swing plane I've talked about. You can turn that off. So say I want to play Pro, I'm not going to play online, I still want to challenge, or I want to play Master, but I don't want a diagonal swing. I want to play it just like 2K23. Well, you would need to turn off swing bias input offset first. That means by default, the swing's going to be straight. And then you're going to want to turn off swing context input offset fully. That's if you don't want a diagonal swing whatsoever. You can set it to a diagonal swing based on the lie angle your ball is sitting on. You can set it only for shot shaping like it is in EA PGA Tours. To when you shot shape, that's when the diagonal swing is going to happen. So you can set that off if you don't want the diagonal swing at all. But here's the thing. If you're playing online ranked, it's gonna be on. So if you want to play online ranked at all, practice on pro. That is the difficulty settings. What I always say with games, don't let anybody tell you what difficulty to play on. Play on the difficulty settings that's fun for you, because that is all that matters. Does not matter what difficulty you play on. Just play the game that's fun for you. Edit each difficulty setting the way you want and change them around to where you find the right difficulty for you. Okay, so that concludes episode 1 of my ultimate beginner's guide for PGA Tour 2K25. In episode 2, you will see the deep dive into the new club experience progression system, new club fittings, and much more. And then after that, episode 3, I'm going to give you tips on the Evo swing, and then also shot shaping in that same episode. Then episode 4 will be the final part of this 4-episode series here that I've already created, and that'll be the putting tutorial. There's a lot of information in that putting tutorial with a lot of examples. It was a really fun video, and honestly, I've made a lot of tutorial series here on the channel. This so far has been my favorite beginner's guide series that I've created and edited. I love the way it turned out, and I just want to thank you all for being a part of it. Hope you all found this helpful and learned something. And if you did find it enjoyable or helpful, be sure to drop a like. It really helps the channel. Subscribe for more, and there is plenty other gameplay content you can tune into here for PGA Tour 2K25 and plenty of other sports games. So stay tuned. Check out the full Ryan Gamer career mode series on the channel for this game and multiple sports game. This career mode series has been a blast so far. Different course showcase videos and plenty more you can tune into. I will see you all in episode 2, where we dive into the club progression system. As always, have a fantastic day, everybody.